Hello there, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today you join a rather well-dressed version of myself in the studio because I want to talk about a subject which I think is very relevant to us intentionally well-dressed men, and that is the potential death of the bow tie, the black tie in particular. Because the black tie has been a staple of the very well-dressed gentleman for many, many years. And I say the bow tie in general, not just the black version of the bow tie, which is probably what we see these days, but the bow tie as a rule has becoming less and less well seen. And the black tie, the sort of ultimate expression of formal dressing, has becoming less and less commonly seen, even at some of the most Swiss society events on the social calendar. And it's left many people to question whether the black tie is in its death throes and it has lost relevance in the modern world. So let's talk about the bow tie and whether it's still going to be around in a few years' time. Okay, so I think what I normally do when I talk about any item of clothing, I like to delve back into its history so we understand where it comes from. And actually the bow tie has a strong relationship with pretty much all neck adornments because they can throw their history back, way back to the 17th century in the 30 Years' War, when the French Empire employed the services of Croatian mercenaries to fight on their behalf as their proxy. And the Croatians, they were in the habit of wearing coloured scarves so that they could identify each other on the battlefield, bright red scarves. And these became known as Croats because the Croats wore them. And over time, they became abbreviated into cravats, and that's today what we tend to call neck adornments of a certain kind. But pretty much all neckties of a form have stemmed from the evolution of those early Croatian scarves, be they, the standard necktie or the cravat or the ascot as we may call it, and the bow tie. They're just aberrations of the original adornments which were seen back then. Now I think it would be fair to say that the bow tie has had its zenith, its halcyon days maybe came many years ago, but over time we rarely see the bow tie in common usage today, and if anything I think they are now seen as something, to wear a bow tie is an act of non-conformity. People tend to wear them to look different from everybody else who's perhaps wearing a standard necktie or no necktie at all. Or to another degree, the bow tie over time has been seen as something of an item of uniform for people who work in certain professions, maybe academics, architects, physicians, people of that nature, professors in universities. The bow tie seems to be the preserve of their standard attire. Now, to a certain degree, I can understand it. If you are shall we say, a doctor, a physician, or a waiter, or somebody working like that, you wouldn't want a necktie dangling down into the wound of a patient, or maybe if you're a waiter, dangling down into the soup that you're carrying across to the diners in the restaurant. So as a consequence, the bow tie is a great little way of wearing a neck adornment, but without having that dangling flap of material which is likely to get in the way necessarily. So I think that's where we've seen the bow tie sort of relegated these days. Also, maybe for those who work in the theatrical world, the bow tie might linger on a bit. Clowns, of course, famously always wear bow ties, even though often they spin around. But certainly the bow tie really slipping away into abeyance in the men's style world to a degree. However, one area that the bow tie seems to have clung on and has even created its own dress code when we talk about the black tie has been the higher end of formality, where of course the black tie, as I'm wearing now, or its more formal cousin, the white tie, indicates the most formal level of dressing which we are likely to undertake in a social setting. Whether you're in an evening in a fancy hotel and you go down to the restaurant and you want to dress up, you go to the opera, you go to an awards ceremony or something of that nature, the black tie is where it's clung on in the bow tie world. It still reigns supreme without a shadow of a doubt. However, that is most definitely changing. And it would be fair to say that the bow tie is definitely falling away from common use. There's some good reasons for that, which I thought up earlier. Firstly, casualisation of men's style definitely taking effect. Less and less men wear ties at all, let alone a bow tie, and certainly a black tie, so that's one of the reasons. Secondly, there's the perception and the stereotypes. So as I said, if we think about university professors, that's not to say it's a bad thing, mind. Indiana Jones wore a bow tie, but that's another matter entirely. But if we think of academics as being the primary wearer of bow ties, maybe physicians, people of that nature, nonconformists, slightly eccentric people, it's going to put us off wearing them in general life. So that's one of the reasons. The ease of wear. I mean, most men eschew a form of tie at all, let alone a bow tie, which many people don't know how to tie up. So it can put people off. And shifts in dress codes and trends maybe is my final thought there. As the world changes and casualisation takes effect, you're not asked to wear a bow tie to go anywhere anymore, hardly at all. But that's the reason why people don't own them. And if you don't own them, you're not going to wear them. So it's definitely, setting out a path. Now, interestingly, one of the areas where you would expect everybody to wear a black tie would be to one of these sort of annual awards ceremonies, which tend to be held particularly around the theatrical world, which are televised and we all get to see. And I'm thinking particularly of the Oscars, of course, the Academy Awards in America. But here in the UK, our own version of the Oscars is called the BAFTAs, the British Academy of Film Arts Awards. It's held every year. It was held just about 3 weeks ago now, as I record this, and it is an event where in the past, when you tuned into it on the TV, if you wanted help in going to sleep, in my experience, because they're not very exciting, but if you were to tune in, you would see the auditorium full of all gentlemen, superbly well turned out, wearing tuxedos, dinnerwear, and absolutely every collar would be adorned with a bow tie. That would be the expectation. However, it's changing. Whereas that used to be the trendsetter, it would set the standard for formal dressing for us ordinary mortals when we saw the celebrities and the TV stars and the movie stars all dressed up. It is changing. Times are definitely moving away from the old days of formality. And remarkably, I was reading my newspaper the other day because I didn't watch the BAFTA Awards. My life is too short to spend 2 or 3 hours discovering who won the best movie soundtrack. I read in my paper that my Times newspaper indicated, and in fact this was headline news, the bow tie was not being worn sufficiently at the BAFTA Awards. And they even went to the extent of giving us some statistics which helps us to have a greater understanding of, is the bow tie dying off? They told us that this year, 3 weeks ago, only 33% of the male attendees at that award ceremony wore a bow tie. So only a third of the men wore a bow tie. And 40% of the men wore no tie at all. They went totally open collared, which was really a shocker to me, because I went online and then I tracked down a media image of one of the invitations for this year's BAFTA Awards, and clearly visible on the images I was able to see on the internet was the fact that dress code is black tie. So I found it really surprising that many of the notable stars attending chose not to do so. And interestingly, Cillian Murphy, who actually won the Best Ass Actor at the BAFTA Awards for his role in Oppenheimer, he wore some bizarre outfit, didn't even wear a shirt with a collar. Certainly setting a bit of a fashion trend, but absolutely no bow tie there. And in fact, some of his other nominees for Best Actor, who were they? People like Ryan Gosling, Andrew Scott, again, didn't wear a bow tie. So the most premium award at this ceremony, the Best Actor, tends to be the one everybody focuses on. The men chose not to wear a bow tie. So kind of showing us that the bow tie is bowing out to a degree in these events. Interestingly though, apparently the Oscars in America tends to be a little more formal, with last year 80% of the male attendees actually chose to wear a bow tie. Only 20% chose not to. So maybe America setting the trend when it comes to formality in maybe these more, swish events, or is it they're a little more avant-garde here in London, so they're pushing the envelope a little? Hard to tell. Of the special guest stars, now Prince William, the Prince of Wales, is the president of BAFTA, and he chose to wear a very splendidly tied bow tie, I did notice. But his little non-conformity was the fact he wore a midnight blue velvet dinner jacket. So a little bit theatrical in its delivery, of course, a little bit of velvet goes well, but still he wore the black tie. So there was a little bit of the conformity and a little bit of avant-garde all mixed together in one outfit. Now, if you're going to try and push the boundaries, I would suggest that's where I would be comfortable also. If you're thinking that the bow tie is dying off, I will just throw one character into the mix here who always gets imagined or pictured, or every actor who plays this part, it's going to be, don't you? It's James Bond. James Bond with his dinner jacket and his bow tie. This is the image which generations of women have thirsted over as the years have passed, and even us men, we look at James Bond in his tuxedo and we think to ourselves, wow, it gives a man an absolute boost to dress in such a way, and the bow tie very much an integral part of that look, I would agree. And I rest my case really, whether somebody should say, is it worth the bow tie remaining as part of the stylish man's lexicon of clothing, or is it something that should be consigned to the history books? I would say absolutely not. The bow tie, simple, easy, classically elegant, doesn't get in the way. You can't even tell you're seeing it because you can't see it when you're wearing it. It's something which will always be in my wardrobe. So whilst I think the bow tie has lost some of its cachet in recent years, with these chaps who are choosing to wear somewhat eccentric clothing to the award ceremonies, do not be put off. If you get an invitation to a society event, whatever it may be, a charity ball, an award ceremony, and the invitation indicates black tie, I would suggest to you that's a pretty good steer towards what they expect you to wear. And believe me, you're going to look exceptional if you wear a black tie and a dinner suit very well. Every man looks his best. I gotta say, when I put my outfit on today to come up here, I felt 6 inches taller and, a much more austere individual. So there we go. The one thing I would leave you with though, is if you are going to wear a bow tie, just do one thing for me. Tie it yourself, right? Do not be one of these guys who goes and buys one of these elasticated bow ties that you just, slip over your head like a 10-year-old kid. It's the easiest thing in the world to tie a bow tie. It's the same as tying the lace on your shoe. Spend 5 minutes, learn how to tie that bow tie, and you will set the standard for years to come. So there we go, gents. I hope I have answered your questions about the death of the bow tie. I sincerely hope not, but it depends on us wearing it. So whether you're sat in a field or whether you're going to a swish event, make sure the bow tie is not far away in your wardrobe. If you've enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, click subscribe. If you want to support the channel, of course, you can just leave me a comment. You can drop me a question with your thoughts, or ask me a question, and I'd be happy to try and answer it in a future video. If you'd like to practically support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, or even better, become a patron, because I make extra video content and lots of other content for my patrons, and you'll find the links on how to get involved in all of that in the show notes, which are below this video. So until the next time, bow ties all round, and I will see you again very soon.